Over my lifetime, I have seen very significant societal changes. Probably one of the most significant, and one that is increasingly concerning people today, is the rise of artificial intelligence. In short, I believe that the rise of powerful AI will be either the best thing, or the worst, ever to happen to humanity.
The pace of development in artificial intelligence has been astronomical over the past few years. Without realizing it, we've all become more and more accustomed to the multitude of ways in which AI has made our lives easier and safer. Take, for example, Amazon's anticipatory shipping practices, where before you even begin searching, Amazon's personalized AI algorithms are able to accurately predict what you want to buy and recommend it to you. Or, on the more useful side, how various banking agencies use AI to protect your bank account information from scammers. Or even how AI-powered optimizations are used all over the country to make energy delivery more efficient. These technologies were once the subject of science fiction, but due to rapid advancements in AI tech, they are no longer just futuristic dreams. The automated and instantaneous detection of violent assault was also such a dream, but this dream is now quickly turning into a reality. A reality which we must tailor very carefully if we do not wish for our dream to turn into a nightmare. Now, this is all founded upon a new wave of security, where artificial intelligence meets traditional surveillance practices, AI-based video analytics. AI-based video analytics are surveillance systems that can analyze video footage in real time in order to detect abnormalities that could pose a threat to public security. Essentially, they help security software learn what is normal, so it can then identify what is unusual and potentially harmful behavior that a human alone may miss. In the United States, the rise of school shootings has positioned high schools among the early adopters of AI-based video analytics. They accounted for a whopping $450 million portion of the $3 billion market in 2018 alone. Now, if we look over to the retail sector, we also see store owners using surveillance cameras with AI video analytics in order to spot shoplifters and alert security personnel to intervene in real time. Smart cities are also leveraging AI tech. This tech can be seen in their networks of city-wide intelligent sensors, which can capture data and organize system response to incidents as they unfold. For instance, police in New York, New Orleans, and Atlanta now use cameras equipped with video analytics in order to identify suspects and improve investigations. In Hartford, Connecticut, a police network of 500 cameras includes lots of AI-enhanced units that can search through hours of CCTV video in order to find people wearing certain clothes or cars with certain license plates. These units can also issue loitering alarms, detect discarded objects, and retrieve matches seen on camera from a database of potential suspects. All of these deployments represent just the tip of the iceberg of the field that is AI-based video analytics. Across the globe, we see surveillance technology has been proliferating at blistering rates, with more than a third of the world's nations already using sophisticated AI technologies for video analysis purposes. The use and intensity of this surveillance is only expected to increase over the upcoming years. As such, we at the University of Waterloo Department of Engineering have deemed it of high moral imperative to broadly share both the benefits of AI surveillance as well as the risks and dangers that are present within this new technology.
Paul Johnson's been with the New Orleans Police Force for 6 years. He's a night shift detective in the French Quarter.
That camera right there, it's hiding in plain sight right there.
Correct, yes. This particular camera actually has assisted me on one of my latest cases, probably like a couple months ago. We had a shooting at this very intersection, like 4:30 in the morning. The gentleman that got shot claimed to be the victim. We watched the video surveillance, went back, and it showed that he was actually shooting at the young man first. So it kind of, helped us exonerate the guy we were looking for.
And if you didn't have the camera, Do you think you would have known the truth?
No, absolutely not.
Eliminating human error is one of the key reasons behind installing artificial intelligence into security surveillance systems. Studies have shown that humans engaged in mundane tasks have a directed attention span for up to 20 minutes. After these first 20 minutes, the attention capacity will begin to decrease as time goes on. Therefore, video analytics are beginning to replace initial human judgment in an effort to increase operational efficiency and accuracy. Instead of depending solely on human monitoring, AI-powered surveillance systems can notify the security teams of potential threats, prevent break-ins or illegal activity, and increase human accuracy. Facial recognition is the detection of individuals in multiple locations via closed-circuit television or across multiple cameras, and also with object and activity detection. By integrating facial recognition into the surveillance systems, the video analytics could catch suspicious body movements or patterns, help investigators identify suspects, and prevent future crimes from happening. With today's technology such as cameras, videos, and social media gathering massive amounts of data, AI has the capability of recognizing crimes or suspicious activities that would have gone undetected under the human eye. In order to ensure public safety, investigations will be issued to these potential crimes caught by the AI surveillance systems. If these suspicious activities turned out to be real from a proper investigation, it would increase the community's confidence in law enforcement and the criminal justice system. To add on, within the AI surveillance systems, pattern analysis of data could be used to disrupt, degrade, and prosecute crimes and criminal enterprises. By using AI in the predictive policing analytics, integrated with computer-aided response and live public safety video enterprises, law enforcement will be better able to respond to incidents, prevent threats, and investigate and analyze criminal activity. AI has the potential to be a permanent part of our criminal justice ecosystem, providing assistance for investigations and allowing criminal justice professionals to maintain public safety in a better way. Another positive point regarding the use of AI surveillance systems is the safety of one's identity who is recorded on the video file or picture. Individuals in this scene can be represented as blobs, obscuring their identities, while foreground and background objects can be color-coded to convey subtle information to the operator. This is all possible because the scenes can be partially rendered, meaning it can reveal the identities of some while preserving the privacy of others. Also, there are various techniques which can prevent the data of surveillance systems from getting into the wrong hands. One of the most well-known methods is scalable video coding, or SVC for short, which allows for the prevention of this digital media from being used to prevent malicious harm or search for an individual by a non-authorized person. Lastly, when combining AI with surveillance systems, users can save a lot of time and effort while trying to find the video recording they need. According to IC Real-Time CEO Matt Saylor, it is possible to simply just search for footage in order to find clips showing specific things such as animals or people or cars. He gave us an example. Let's say there's a robbery and you don't really know what happened, says Saylor, but there was a Jeep Wrangler speeding east afterwards. So we go in, we search for Jeep Wrangler, and there it is. On screen, clips begin to populate the feed, showing different Jeep Wranglers gliding past. Without the help of AI, it would have taken longer to manually search for the Jeep Wrangler on the road, as one must continuously wait until the car shows up on the screen. In addition, if there is no specific information on when the event exactly occurred on the video recording, the search time is always uncertain, which displays a lack of reliability. Therefore, not only can AI surveillance systems facilitate the work for security teams, but it can also be more trustworthy and accurate, especially in times of emergencies.
Why should people care about surveillance?
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded, and the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude, to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call, and then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life and paint anyone in the context of a wrongdoer.
There is admittedly a need for surveillance systems in our modern-day societies, and while artificial intelligence can most definitely reduce the labor and improve the effectiveness of the operation as a whole, there follows a various amount of ethical questions that range from privacy concerns all the way to systematic subjugation. To start, privacy is factually known to be a given right in our country, with every person being entitled to be free from surveillance in their place of residence. However, with new AI-driven surveillance systems being implemented across the country, these rights are coming closer than ever to being dishonored. We have now come to the point where the public is being monitored without either having been asked for consent or without having been informed prior to surveillance. This poses a serious potential for breach of security of privacy. And due to extraordinary progress made in the technological departments of mass surveillance systems, it is simply becoming more than ever impossible to avoid public surveillance. And with an exponentially increasing amount of information that must be handled by our government and authorities, there is a pressing risk of this information being hijacked or possibly used for nefarious purposes by non-authorized personnel. There have been serious cases in the past where vital government information was hijacked and exploited by false-hearted persons, and which left many citizens' private information exposed and potentially exploited. For instance, in late February of 2021, federal departments and agencies reported that the personal information belonging to some 144,000 Canadians were breached, and this led to potentially thousands of Canadian citizens being victims of our government's surveillance policy, as highly delicate information, such as phone numbers, addresses, and other credentials, were hijacked. If we are heading towards a more surveillance and security-driven society, then it would be sound judgment to at least have more prejudice in implementing such a technology. However, as it looks now, the government has little or at most a small amount of actual care being put towards ensuring that newly developed mass surveillance systems do not risk breaching and dishonoring the privacy of everyday citizenry. While some could say that the concerns of privacy could be subdued by eventually updating the securement methods used on such data, there is still a ruthless flaw that lingers beneath the surface of every algorithm or AI. No matter how possibly sophisticated or advanced, that flaw is bias. Every written work shares the bias of its author, and this holds true with every written piece of code or every trained artificial intelligence. There is an underlying bias that can easily prevent the intended function of an AI or algorithmic system. And this holds to be the single most damning flaw in this AI-driven surveillance system, as this system allows for the use of what is known as object video streaming. Within the surveillance camera output, an AI or algorithm is able to track, outline, and identify what is referred to as an object. Now, an object could either be a physical an inanimate object, or more controversially, a person, where the identity of any person appearing in the view of the lens can be found later and tracked down. While this alone poses no immediate threat besides the possible risk of a future breach of that person's security, as mentioned before, the real controversy and ultimately dispute is the use of an artificial intelligence system in detecting and ultimately alerting the authorities if whether a certain individual could pose a potential threat to the surrounding area. This idea overall stems from good intentions and could conceivably act as an early detection system against real threats, such as a shooter, which can be capable of saving countless of lives. However, while this is the main purpose of the system, that idea itself is fictitious. It is well known that AI systems can have serious biases in how they operate, with various examples of AI systems giving an input that ultimately had a strong bias. For instance, an AI system that was used by medical doctors in the US had reportedly given distinctively different medical opinions based on the current status of that individual's income. And another odd yet more drastic incident was the AI used for the Apple credit card, with the card questionably offering those who identified as female a smaller line of credit when compared to males. However, while these cases are unquestionably strange and do show that various AI systems or algorithms can be prone to a variety of biases, the eeriest case of a bias being present in an AI system is the use of a particular AI system in certain law enforcement institutions across the United States. AI programs were given the simple task of rating the likelihood of a repeat offense. However, after numerous studies were conducted, the striking truth was found. The AI itself had an unforgivable bias, and individuals of African American descent were found to be significantly more likely to be accused of repeating an offense, despite the fact that there is no actual evidence of that ever being true. If a bias as disgusting and vulgar can be found present in AI systems that are already in use today, then it is just as likely that a similar AI-driven bias can be found in new surveillance systems that use the power of AI to operate. Therefore, this presents a great risk to the general public if such systems were to be implemented today, as not only could public member information and thus privacy be compromised on a mass scale, but the surveillance system itself could potentially tread over and infringe upon basic human rights, as people could be branded as a suspect simply due to the fact of who they are, and whatever bias in AI would have towards them.
They won't be willing to take the risks necessarily to stand up and fight to change things, to force their representatives to actually take a stand in their interests. And the months ahead, the years ahead, it's only going to get worse until eventually there will be a time where policies will change, because the only thing that restricts the activities of the surveillance state are policy.
Given the immense impact that AI surveillance has had and will continue to have in our society, it should be readily evident that rigorous debate is an absolute necessity. AI surveillance is much more than just an issue of safety. It is an issue of our privacy, our liability, our data protection, and our lives. As such, there are 3 key recommendations that we implore you to consider. Number 1, we need to dramatically improve the state of both security and privacy. And the first step to doing this is to eliminate the need for human interference. Human personnel behind surveillance camera feeds, no matter how well trained, inherently have their own personal interests and are now equipped with powerful tools like biological face recognition. We should aim to employ more algorithmic solutions focused solely on security in order to maximize individual privacy and eliminate the need for human surveillance. And given that these algorithmic solutions will undoubtedly be written by authors with their own personal biases, we should call for more open source code and easily accessible documentation so that there is no mystical veil over some inherently flawed and proprietary software. Number 2, when it comes to AI surveillance, we need to experiment with policy making in mind. By working with public authorities on testing grounds for new technologies, the effectiveness and societal impact can be evaluated in a controlled and safe manner. Making policy should always be in mind during these experiments, and therefore we encourage the formalization in policy because this creates transparency for all parties involved. Number 3, we absolutely must maintain an open and critical dialogue regarding all things artificially intelligent. As Stephen Hawking mentioned at the start of chapter 1, the rise of powerful AI will likely be either the best thing or the worst thing to happen to humanity. However, which it will be is heavily dependent on the choices that we make today. As such, it is incredibly important for us to ascertain whether the security issues that we face as a nation are large enough to justify the privacy infringements caused by AI video surveillance solutions. Now, there is no one single right answer to all cases, so we should always maintain a dialogue with different voices in order to stay critical in our decisions and prevent the formation of a thought bubble. Now, in order to bring all 3 of these recommendations to fruition, we ask that you actively listen and talk about the future of AI to those around you, to your family, to your friends, to your dog, frankly, whoever is ready to listen. This issue is too important and too pressing to keep to oneself. Also, this video should not be the start nor the end of the discussion. Just like every other source, we too have our own biases. So please do consult multiple sources and come to your own conclusions. Lastly, real change in the public security space comes from policy change. So we ask that you please reach out to your local securities commission as well as to your member of parliament, links to both of which are on the screen currently. By raising your concerns to all of those around you as well as to those in power, we can kickstart a much needed conversation about our privacy and our security in our inevitably AI-powered futures. Thank you for watching, and stay safe under the government eye.